Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sarita Aircrew Official. Today, we're talking about those customs and immigration questions that can feel a little intimidating, especially if you haven't traveled internationally in a while. That title sounds serious, I know, but I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you and give you confidence. As a 15-year flight attendant, I've walked thousands of passengers through international terminals, and I've seen firsthand how a little preparation can turn a stressful experience into a smooth one. The truth is, customs and immigration officers are just doing their job, and when you know what to expect, those questions become so much easier to handle. Today, I want to share 13 questions you're likely to hear when going through customs and immigration, what they really mean, and exactly how to answer them with confidence. Whether you're visiting family abroad, taking that dream vacation, or traveling for any reason, this video will help you breeze through the process. Let's get started. This is usually the very first question you'll hear. And it sounds simple, right? But here's what most travelers don't realize. Your answer sets the tone for the entire interaction. In my 15 years working flights, I've noticed that seniors sometimes over-explain or under-explain this question, and both can create unnecessary follow-up questions. Immigration officers are trained to listen for consistency and clarity. They want a straightforward answer that matches your visa or travel documents. Here's what I mean. If you're visiting family, simply say, "I'm visiting my daughter for 2 weeks." If it's tourism, say, "I'm here on vacation to see the sights." If it's medical treatment, say, "I'm here for a medical appointment." Keep it honest, direct, and brief. What you want to avoid is rambling or giving contradictory information. I once saw a passenger say she was just visiting, but then mentioned she might look for work while there. That raised immediate red flags. For seniors especially, officers want to ensure you're not planning to overstay or work illegally, so clarity is your friend. Pro tip, if you're on a tour group, mention it. I'm on a guided tour with company name. Tour groups are actually viewed favorably because there's clear structure and an exit plan. This question is directly tied to the first one, and immigration officers are checking for consistency. They want to make sure your stated length of stay matches your return ticket and any visa restrictions. Here's the insider truth. Immigration systems are sophisticated. The officer can see your return flight information on their screen. If you say maybe a month or so, but your ticket shows you're leaving in 3 weeks, that vagueness creates suspicion. Always know your exact dates. I recommend having your return ticket easily accessible, either printed or pulled up on your phone, even if they don't ask to see it. Being able to say, "I'm staying for 12 days, departing on March 15th, shows you're organized and truthful. For seniors traveling on longer visits, this is especially important. If you're staying with family for 6 weeks, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure it doesn't exceed any visa time limits, usually 90 days for tourist visas in many countries. And be ready to show your return ticket. Here's what we flight attendants see all the time. Seniors sometimes forget their exact return date because a family member booked it for them. Before you leave home, write down your arrival and departure dates, and keep that information in an easily accessible spot. Maybe the front pocket of your carry-on. This question trips up more travelers than you'd think. Immigration wants to verify that you have legitimate accommodations and aren't arriving with no plan, which could indicate you're planning to stay illegally. In my experience, the best answer includes specifics. If you're staying at a hotel, have the name and address ready. If you're staying with family, know their full address, street number, city, and postal code. Saying, "I'm staying with my son in Toronto" isn't enough. You need "I'm staying with my son at 123 Maple Street, Toronto, Ontario." Here's a tip that TSA agents actually shared with me. Write this information down on a small card and keep it with your passport. When you're tired from a long flight, your memory might not be as sharp, and having it written down shows preparation and honesty. For seniors staying at multiple locations, maybe a few days with one child, then visiting another relative, mention the primary address first. You can say, I'm primarily staying with my daughter in Vancouver, then visiting my son in Calgary for a few days. What raises red flags? Vague answers like, somewhere downtown, or I haven't decided yet. This suggests you might be planning something other than a legitimate visit. Always have your accommodation information documented and accessible. For working-age travelers, this is straightforward, but for seniors, this question sometimes causes confusion. Here's the thing. Retirement is a perfectly legitimate answer, and you should state it clearly. If you're retired, simply say, I'm retired. You don't need to explain your entire work history unless asked. Some seniors feel like they need to justify their retirement or explain what they used to do. You don't. However, if you're retired but doing some part-time consulting or volunteer work, here's my advice. Only mention it if it's relevant to your trip. If you're traveling for leisure, I'm retired is your answer. If you're attending a professional conference in retirement, then mention, I'm a retired teacher attending an education conference. Why does this matter? Immigration wants to ensure you're not entering the country to work illegally. By clearly stating you're retired, you're demonstrating that you're financially independent and not seeking employment. I've seen officers ask follow-up questions like, how are you funding your trip? This is more common if you're staying for an extended period. A simple, honest answer works. I'm living off my pension and savings, or my children are hosting me. Here's what flight attendants know. Retired travelers are generally viewed very favorably by immigration because they're lower risk for overstaying or working illegally. Your retirement is actually an advantage. Own it confidently. This question is particularly common for senior solo travelers, and I want you to understand why it's asked. Immigration officers aren't being nosy. They're checking for potential human trafficking situations and ensuring you have support if needed. If you are traveling alone, say so clearly. Yes, I'm traveling alone. There's absolutely nothing wrong with solo travel at any age. Then, if you feel comfortable, you can add context. I'm visiting my daughter, or I'm meeting friends at my destination. If you're traveling with a tour group but arrived separately, mention the group. I'm traveling alone but joining a tour group at the hotel. Here's what I've observed. Some seniors feel embarrassed about traveling solo and either over-explain or seem defensive. Please don't. Solo travel is increasingly common for seniors, especially widows and widowers, and immigration officers see it every single day. If you're traveling with someone but got separated in line, you can mention it. I'm traveling with my husband, he's in the other line, and point them out if visible. For those traveling with adult children or caregivers, be clear about the relationship. I'm traveling with my daughter, or I'm traveling with my aide who assists me. The key is honest, straightforward answers. Immigration just wants to confirm your travel story makes sense and you're safe. Let's be real. This is the most important question you'll be asked, and it has serious legal implications. Here's the truth that airlines don't always make clear. Declare means reporting items you're bringing in that might be taxable or restricted. In my 15 years, I've seen passengers get into serious trouble because they didn't understand what needed to be declared. So let me break this down clearly. You typically need to declare large amounts of currency, usually over 10,000, expensive items you purchased abroad over the duty-free limit, commercial quantities of goods, certain food items, and items from prohibited countries. Here's the thing. Every country has different rules, but most have a personal exemption, maybe $800 worth of goods for the US, or different amounts for other countries. Anything over that limit needs to be declared and you might pay duty tax on it. When in doubt, always declare. I cannot stress this enough. The penalty for not declaring is far worse than paying a small duty tax. I've seen seniors lose expensive items and face hefty fines because they didn't declare a watch they bought for their grandchild. The officer might ask, "Are you sure? Check your bags again." This isn't a trick. They're giving you one more chance to be honest. If you suddenly remember something, speak up immediately. Pro tip from customs agents, if you're unsure whether something needs to be declared, ask. It's better to declare something that ends up being exempt than to hide something declarable. This question surprises a lot of travelers. You might think, what does a farm visit have to do with anything? But here's the insider knowledge. This is about agricultural biosecurity. Countries want to prevent the spread of animal diseases, pests, and agricultural contamination. If you visited a farm, petting zoo, or even hiked through rural areas where you might have contacted soil or animals, you need to declare it. In my experience, seniors who visited family in rural areas sometimes forget to mention farm visits. Maybe you helped feed your son's chickens or visited a dairy farm as a tourist attraction. That counts. Here's what happens if you say yes. They might inspect and clean your shoes or ask you to clean them yourself. It's not a punishment, it's prevention. Some countries are very strict about this because one contaminated shoe could introduce a devastating agricultural disease. The key is honesty. If you're not sure, mention it. I walked through a rural area but didn't directly contact animals. Let them make the call. What you should never do is lie and say no when you did visit a farm. They sometimes have detection dogs that can smell agricultural materials, and getting caught in a lie creates much bigger problems than a simple shoe cleaning. This question protects both you and the country's agriculture industry. Answer honestly and cooperate fully. Oh, this one. I see seniors get tripped up on this question all the time, and here's why. What counts as food is broader than you think, and different countries have very different rules. Here's what most travelers don't realize. That homemade jam your sister gave you. Food. The dried herbs from the market. Food. Those chocolates you bought at the duty-free shop. Usually okay, but still food. Fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy, seeds, nuts. These are often prohibited entirely. In my experience, seniors are more likely to carry homemade or traditional foods as gifts, and these are often the most problematic items. I completely understand the sentiment. You want to bring grandma's special preserves or regional delicacies to family abroad. But many countries ban homemade or unlabeled food products entirely. Here's the rule I tell everyone. Commercially packaged, sealed, shelf-stable foods are generally safer bets. Fresh or homemade items are high risk. When in doubt, declare it and let the officer decide. I once watched a lovely grandmother lose an entire suitcase full of homemade sausages, weeks of work, because she didn't declare them and they were discovered during a random inspection. It was heartbreaking and completely avoidable. Some countries have agricultural declaration forms you fill out on the plane. Read them carefully and check yes if you have any food items. The penalties for food smuggling can include fines of hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Pro tip: if you want to bring food gifts, research the specific country's regulations beforehand on their customs website, or stick to commercially sealed items with ingredient labels. This question makes some people nervous, but understanding why it's asked helps. Countries require you to declare currency over a certain amount, typically $10,000 USD or equivalent, to prevent money laundering and illegal financial activity. Here's what's important for seniors to know. This includes all forms of currency: cash, traveler's checks, money orders, and sometimes even bank drafts. It's the total combined amount. If you're carrying $9,000 in cash and $2,000 in traveler's checks, that's $11,000 total. You need to declare it. Many seniors don't realize traveler's checks count. In my 15 years, I've noticed that seniors sometimes carry larger amounts of cash because they're more comfortable with it than credit cards, or they're planning to help family members abroad. That's perfectly legal. You just need to declare amounts over the threshold. Here's the critical part. Declaring doesn't mean they'll take your money. It just means filling out a form documenting that you're traveling with it. It's legal to carry any amount. You just have to report large sums. What gets people in trouble is lying or forgetting. If you say you're carrying $5,000 but they find $15,000 during a random bag check, you could face seizure of the funds and serious penalties. My advice: before you leave home, count your total currency, including all forms. If it's close to the threshold, declare it anyway to be safe. The declaration process takes just a few extra minutes and protects you completely. And here's a practical tip: don't carry large amounts of cash if you can avoid it. Credit cards and ATM withdrawals are safer for seniors and don't require declaration. Sometimes customs officers will ask to look through your bags. I know this can feel invasive, but it's routine, and knowing your rights while being cooperative makes all the difference. First, understand that customs officers have the legal authority to search your bags without a warrant when you're entering a country. It's part of border security. However, most searches are quick visual inspections, not invasive teardowns. Here's what I've observed. Officers are looking for prohibited items, undeclared goods, and anything that doesn't match your declaration. If you've been honest on all the previous questions, a bag search should be stress-free. When an officer asks to search your bag, stay calm and cooperative. Say, "Of course," and step back. Let them conduct the search. Don't reach in to help or try to explain every item unless asked. This can actually look suspicious. For seniors with medications, medical devices, or personal items, here's my advice. Keep these organized in clear bags if possible. Officers see thousands of bags daily and appreciate organization. If you use mobility aids, oxygen, or medical equipment, mention it up front. "I have medical equipment in this bag." They'll still inspect it, but will handle it more carefully. Here's an important right you have. You can request a private search if the officer needs to inspect personal items you're uncomfortable displaying publicly. Just politely say, "Could we do this in a private area?" They'll accommodate you. What you should never do is refuse a search, become confrontational, or try to grab your bag away. This will escalate the situation dramatically and could result in detention. Be patient, be polite, and remember, they're doing their job to keep everyone safe, including you. This question is absolutely critical, and here's why it matters, especially for seniors. Smugglers sometimes target older travelers because they assume seniors are more trusting and less likely to be suspected. The answer to this question should always be no, unless you're carrying something for a family member you're traveling with and you know exactly what it is. Here's the hard truth from my years in aviation. I've seen kind, well-meaning seniors get arrested because someone befriended them at the airport and asked them to carry a gift for a relative, or because someone offered to help with luggage and slipped something into their bag. Never, ever carry packages, envelopes, or items for strangers or even casual acquaintances. Even if someone has a sad story about needing help getting a gift to their grandmother, don't do it. Legitimate travelers ship items. Criminals use unwitting carriers. If a family member asked you to bring something, make sure you know exactly what it is. Open packages before you pack them. I know it might seem rude, but your safety is more important than anyone's feelings. Here's what customs agents told me. If something illegal is found in your bag, someone else put it there, is not a legal defense. You're responsible for everything in your possession. If anyone approaches you with such a request at the airport, politely decline and report it to airport security immediately. This isn't being paranoid, it's being smart. For seniors traveling with tour groups, the same rule applies. Don't carry items for other tour members unless you packed it yourself and know what it is. This question protects you. Answer it honestly and take it seriously. Medications can be a tricky area, especially for seniors who often take multiple prescriptions. Here's what you need to know to breeze through this question. First, yes, you can bring prescription medications into almost any country, but there are rules. Keep medications in their original labeled prescription bottles whenever possible. This shows they're legitimately prescribed to you and makes identification easy. If you use a pill organizer for daily doses, that's fine, but bring the original bottles too, or at least bring a copy of your prescriptions or a letter from your doctor listing your medications. Here's what I recommend. Create a medication list with drug names, dosages, and your doctor's contact information. Keep this with your passport. If an officer questions anything, you can hand them this documentation immediately. Certain medications are controlled substances or even illegal in some countries. For example, some sleep aids or pain medications legal in the US are prohibited elsewhere. Research your destination's rules before you travel or check with the embassy. In my experience, customs officers are generally very understanding about prescription medications for seniors. They see it constantly. What they want to ensure is that you're not trafficking drugs or carrying excessive quantities for resale. Bring only what you need for your trip, plus a few extra days' worth in case of delays. Carrying a 6-month supply of medication for a 2-week trip raises questions. If you use injectable medications like insulin, bring your prescription and doctor's letter and keep syringes with the medication so it's obviously medical. One more critical tip: never carry medications for someone else, even family members. Each person must carry their own prescriptions. I've seen well-meaning spouses try to carry their partner's medications and face complications. Be upfront, be organized, and carry documentation. This question should be simple if you're prepared. Here's something most travelers don't understand. Sometimes you'll be directed to secondary inspection without a specific question triggering it. Let me demystify this process because it worries a lot of seniors. Secondary inspection is simply a more detailed interview and search conducted in a separate area. It's not an arrest, and it doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. You might be selected because random selection. Yes, it's truly random sometimes. Your answers triggered additional questions. Your passport was flagged for routine checks. You're visiting from or have stamps from certain countries, or the officer simply wants to verify your documents more carefully. Here's what I want seniors to know. If you're directed to secondary inspection, stay calm. It's routine for thousands of travelers daily. Follow the officer's instructions, bring your carry-on items, and wait patiently. In secondary, you might be asked the same questions again, more detailed questions about your trip, or to provide additional documentation like return tickets or hotel confirmations. This is why I always say to keep important documents easily accessible. The process can take 20 minutes to a few hours, depending on how busy they are. I know this is frustrating, especially for seniors with mobility issues or medical needs. If you need to sit down, use the restroom, or take medication, politely ask permission. They'll accommodate you. Here's the insider truth. Being cooperative and patient in secondary inspection usually speeds up the process. Getting angry or demanding to leave will only prolong it. If you're truly worried or the situation seems unusual, you have the right to ask for a supervisor or, in some cases, to contact your country's embassy. But in 99% of cases, secondary inspection is routine verification, and you'll be cleared and on your way. The best defense against secondary inspection concerns? Preparation. Have all your documents organized, answer questions honestly and consistently, and stay calm throughout the entire customs process. So there you have it. 13 customs and immigration questions you need to know as a senior traveler in 2026, straight from a flight attendant who's seen it all. Here's what I want you to remember. These questions aren't designed to trick you or scare you. They're standard procedures to keep everyone safe and ensure legal travel. When you know what to expect and prepare accordingly, customs and immigration becomes just another simple step in your journey. My biggest tips? Be honest, be organized, and be patient. Keep your important documents accessible, know your travel details, and don't carry anything you can't explain or declare. You've got this. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel for more insider travel tips and flight attendant secrets. I post new videos every week to help you travel smarter and with more confidence. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had an interesting customs experience? What questions worried you most? I love hearing your stories and answering your questions. And if you're planning international travel soon, check out my video on what flight attendants pack in their carry-ons. It's full of tips that will make your journey so much smoother. Safe travels, everyone, and remember, preparation is the key to confident, stress-free travel at any age.